My mother sent us back. Sent us out of his breakfast to give us something still good.
Things were very difficult with my parents, and my mother opened a small bakery in the Castries area.
Because my father do everything he could do for me, not for himself, for me, personal. And from there, when I see my son, I just sit and I just remember my mother and my father every day, how they take it so hard to bring us up. And I seen from today that I have two disabled children from mother. The mother asks for freedom, and they don't want that freedom, you know.
PAX is the agent for Caribbean Line, which offers an effective alternative for global integrative of transport logistics from Sheerness, UK to Vieux-Fort St. Lucia in shipping, documentation, administrative procedure, loading and unloading operations. We also offer courier, small package service, customs brokerage, ship agency, freight forwarder, consolidator, and accounting services. Visit them today on New Dock Road, Vieux-Fort, or call 454-1200 or 7198837. PAX is effective, efficient, and reliable.
Real estate transactions are now made easy. Whether buying, selling, or renting residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, or touristic property, we offer the best deals in real estate transactions with professional support, including valuation, material sourcing, and construction. Contact Ed Harris and Associates, your courteous and efficient real estate agents. Call 485-1456 or email carrotbiz@gmail.com.
Do you need to copy or print your document? Are you in need of insurance? Are you looking for office stationery? Stop. Yes, LMP Services on Clark Lane, Vieux-Fort has all the services you need. They open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Or call 454-8757 or 721-8757 for affordable rates, reliable and effective customer service with a difference.
Ernesto's Auto Parts, located on the Labrie-Vieux-Fort Highway, is your place for auto parts. We have suspension parts, mounts, brakes, shocks, and so much more.
We specialize in accessories like mats, batteries, horns, lubricants, and much more.
We're open from Mondays to Saturdays from 8 to 5 and Sundays and most holidays from 8 to 1.
L'Opri, Ernesto vai dé pour you.
What do you need to transport? Call the hauler. At M&E's Trucking, we offer a wide range of services island-wide, from containerized movement, flatbed service, and lowboy transfers. We're located at Beanfield, Vieux-Fort. Our skillful professional drivers are ready to serve you. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram or email us at vibration711@gmail.com. Call us at 488-1000. We're ready to serve you.
Listeners, viewers, good evening. Constituency Vibes will be coming your way very shortly. Stay tuned. Very exciting program we have for you tonight on 93.1 FM, Sky FM.
My mother sent us back. It was out of his breakfast to give us what we still good.
Things were very difficult with my parents, and my mother opened a small bakery in the Castries area.
Because my father do everything he could do for me, not for himself, for me, personal. And from there, when I see my house, I just sit and I just remember my mother and my father every day, how they take it so hard to bring us up. And I seen from today that I have two disabled children with a mother. The mother asks for freedom, and they don't want that freedom, you know.
People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m.
My mother sent us back. It was out of his breakfast to give us what we still good.
Things were very difficult with my parents, and my mother opened a small bakery in the Castries area.
Because my father do everything he could do for me. Not for himself, for me, personal. And from there, when I see my son, I just stood and I just remember my mother and my father every day, how they take it so hard to bring us up. And I seen from today there, I have two disabled children from mother. The mother asks for freedom, and they don't want that freedom, you know.
People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m. Building economic resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m. People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk.
You good now?
Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m. People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment. People-centered in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m.
Good evening, listeners. Good evening, viewers. We want to tell you and give you a special welcome to Constituency Vibes. This is your program on 93.1 FM, Sky FM, Flow 115 on GDV TV, coming to you live from our studios at Sky FM in Castries. This is a program that focuses on this government's holistic approach to sustainable development in a people-centered way to deliver progress and growth to the people, constituency by constituency, throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia. This government, its focus, its visionary approach, embraces a perspective of local economic development at the constituency level, which involves a process by which people, the public, private and non-state actors and partners work collectively to create a better condition for economic growth and employment generation. The purpose is to build up economic capacity in the local area, to improve its economic future and the quality of life for all, to create an environment where jobs can be created, and to enhance the development and aesthetics of the local community. This government is focused on a holistic approach to development in a manner that puts people first. It does this through a broad philosophy that underpins its ideology to fight the wrong that needs resistance and to help the cause that needs assistance. This government's development approach is visionary and it's forward-thinking, led by our Prime Minister, the Honorable Alan Shastney, with meaningful participatory development in the process of planned change and managed learning with a competent and capable team of men and women. This is a form in the perspective that all great leaders have had some characteristic in common. It was the willingness to confront unequivocally the major anxieties of the people in their time. This, and not much else, is the essence of leadership. And that is a quote from the economist J.K. Galbraith. St. Lucians at home and abroad, The message that comes to you from this government, this hard-working government, this team of workers, is a message of hope, a message of resilience, capacity development, and not handouts and dependence, as the government does not believe in giving a man to fish, but rather teaching you to fish so that you will always have fish. It is a message from team unity, building capacity, working in the spirit of harmony, care, and respect for others. Our focus, as always, is on the development and transformation of this country throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia, constituency by constituency. Our political landscape, particularly in these times, seem to be characterized by the darkness of hatred, bitterness, and personal attacks. Our government is focused, people-centered, and driven with passionate intensity to ensure that we develop this country. As Martin Luther King Jr. puts it, we must never succumb to the temptation of hate and bitterness. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Viewers, the ultimate measure of a government is not where it stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where it stands in times of challenges and controversy. In this time of COVID-19 challenges, Jah knows that the government has been working tirelessly to ensure that the interests of the people of this country, farmers, teachers, youth, those on the front line, at this particular time, is at the forefront of bringing support, care, and relief to all St. Lucians, while at the same time staying focused on the development agenda as best as practicable. Clearly, we are speaking and referring to a government that cares, a government of which its vision and its measures is clearly based on the power to care and to really take care of its citizens. It is not based on the power that people, the opposition you have, are desperate for, but rather it is based on the power of love and not the love of power that you see emanating from the other side. Tonight, we will highlight the government's holistic approach to implementation and its initiatives, programs, and policies. And of course, at the very center of any development approach, education plays an important role in national development by performing the following: awakening of curiosity, proper interest, attitudes, and values, and bringing up proper skills. The function of education, as Martin Luther King Jr. puts it, is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. It is intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education. The government's approach to education, and that sector in particular, is that it is a vital investment for human and economic development, and it is influenced by the environment within which it exists. The government remains mindful that we are living in an inquiring, and innovative-oriented society. The demands of the 21st century, its novelty, creativity, and integration of knowledge at the critical thoughts are some of the critical aspects in this age of technology that we live in. Rapid social change, including pandemics such as the COVID-19, are creating uncertainty and complexity in the society. The government recognizes and is focused on preparing our children, our youth, to cope with the present situation, their needs, and to develop analytically and critically thinking skills and attitude, which would make them more flexible and innovative to deal with uncertainty and crisis at the national and global level. My guest this evening, the Honorable Dr. Gail T.C. Rigobert, Minister of Education, Innovation, Gender Relations, and Sustainable Development, and Member of Parliament for Mico North. We'll be talking about North vibes with the Minister and many things that is happening at the constituency level in Mico North. And let me just give you a little brief summary on the education end of things. The launch of the St. Lucia, launch of Educate St. Lucia, with a focus on the first generation opportunities, TVET, long life learning, approving and getting ratified the TVET and ICTE policies, the integration of ITC into education with a broader focus on the education system, the introduction of Learn Book device, establishment of the St. Lucia Sports Academy, combating literacy through Yes I Can program, promotion of greater emphasis on TVET, the largest injection of funds into school rehabilitation, 28.2 million, transformation of the ICT centers to innovation and career development centers, mergers of select infant to primary school, construction of the block at Choiseul, Binfield, and Monrepo Patience, the COVID measures in schools, and the area of sustainable development, which is a portfolio of the minister, that focuses on 3 dimensions: development, which are economically feasible, environmentally sound, and socially acceptable. And in that area, you have the endorsement by Cabinet of the National Ocean Policy Strategic Action Plan, endorsement by Cabinet of the Climate Financing Strategy, endorsement by Cabinet of Climate Change Private Sector Engagement Strategy, the compilation of the Resilience Ecosystem Strategy and Action Plan, the compilation of the Climate Change Research Policy and Strategy, the completion of Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG Roadmap, establishment and organization of the National Environmental Information System, completion of the National Cooling Strategy, enhancement of the Styrofoam and Plastic Food Service Containers Prohibition Act of 2019, National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, approved in January 2020. For more information, they'll give you that website to go, http://www.cbd.it. St. Lucia's updated nationally determined contribution recorded and published by the NDC Registry. Under the United Nations Development Program, you had the development of a rapid integrated assessment, holistic and private sector consultations, establishment of meaningful partnerships, and let me go to my hometown, Soufriere. There's a lot of things happening at the PMA, the Peters Management Area, and of course, this month, February, you have a lot of action happening, which started on the 1st of February with a series of 4 virtual productions, which featured an address by the Honorable Minister, through month-long campaigns of restoring the pride. You have a second segment of a series which will be aired on NTN Channel 112 from 9 p.m. The following Sunday, the segment will be on February 18th and the 24th, respectively. You have a drama skit by the Soufriere Action Theatre, Côté d'où sorti, Côté nous ka aller, that's the film. Presentation of messages of partnership support from the national, local stakeholder agencies, like the SRDF, the Soufriere Regional Development Foundation, and others. A special and premiere performance of the popular spoken word by the artist Donaton, performing a piece called Pride. Unveiling of designs for the PMA, the Peter Management Area welcome sign. Launch of the Voice of the Peters, a non-for-profit body. Presentation of the PMA and the World Heritage Tour concept. Presentation of the PMA and World Heritage Fashion Week. And this will be featured on NTN and other media houses as well. Just to touch base, gender relations is also a focus area of the minister, of her ministerial portfolio, and you've had a lot happening, strengthening state accountability for ending gender-based violence in the Caribbean, increasing awareness on negative impact of GBV on the individuals, the households, community, and there's a lot of things that's happening, and of course we are here for Minister to discuss with us as well. Minister, I listened to you in Parliament yesterday, and you were articulating a lot of issues, expanding bursary of the school transportation, repurposed loans for assisting women and the development, vulnerable shelter to cushion the impact of domestic violence, aspirational goals to be brought into the digital era, a lot of discussion on the laptop programs, pilot e-education program, connectivity, additional software, community connectivity, families who do not have connectivity and the access to Wi-Fi, and all of that. So this government is working, a lot is happening, and of course, let me turn on to the Minister to be able to share with us from her perspective some of the critical issues that we've touched on.
Good evening, Ricky. Good evening, St. Lucia. It's always a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with St. Lucians. Especially the people of Mico North. So good evening to everyone, and thank you for tuning in. I know that we are dealing with a lot at this time, and many people are consumed with their own personal well-being and welfare. And for you to set the time aside to listen and to participate, I must say that means a lot to me, and I'm sure to us here in the studio. Let me begin by saying to all of us that we are to remember to observe the protocols, wash your hands, wear your mask, maintain social distancing. And we in the studio here have made every effort to ensure that we subscribe to the protocols and the appropriate measures have been taken. So I want to thank you, Ricky, for that. You know, I'm a stickler for these things, so thank you very much. So much has gone on in the last year in particular. There are so many views and perspectives on what should obtain, what's the right thing to do. But let me begin by asking us to be more indulgent, more patient with one another, because there's no prescription out there. No one has the panacea to the many problems that beset us at this time. Every country in every part of the world is experimenting, trying things as we go along, tweaking accordingly, making the necessary adjustments with the end goal of preserving lives, preserving livelihoods. And I want to therefore thank our frontliners. I've had the opportunity on so many occasions to engage with our firemen, nurses, doctors, our sanitation workers, janitors. There's so many professionals, so many persons who have been in the forefront of this fight on COVID, this fight against COVID-19. And I must therefore start on a note of gratitude to say how grateful we are for the sacrifices that so many people have made to ensure that we remain safe. Regrettably, we've had some loss of life, and to the families who have lost loved ones, my thoughts and my prayers are with you. To those who are recovering, I pray that the healing hand of God would touch you in a very special way. And to the many who are exhausted, because we all who have been involved in this are truly exhausted. And we recognize that. I pray for divine restoration, divine rejuvenation, and thank you so much. Believe it or not, Ricky, this month February 2021, shy of maybe a week and a half, I commemorate, celebrate 10 years of a formal expression of interest in representing my dear people of Mico North. I don't know whether you recall, it was that Sunday when the United Workers' Party was launching a Doddy on the cul-de-sac field.
Yes.
And at the time, I was advisor to the then Prime Minister, Mr. Stephenson King. And we had just concluded what we normally do in the back office. That needs no further explanation.
Indeed. A lot of hard work happens in the back.
And I was heading home, and someone out of OPM's office called and said, "Have you not heard what happened today?" I said, "What is it?" And it was then I was told that the sitting MP at that time had submitted a resignation letter to the leader of the party and Prime Minister King. And that would have been just around this time, 10 years ago.
Wow, time
does fly. And many don't know that prior to that, several persons had approached me while I was studying, when I would come home on vacation, even while I was here in the period 2010, April 2010 to April 2011. In fact, prior to the February 2011 event, many persons had engaged me asking whether I would consider. And I remember remarking on one occasion that I would not want to be part and parcel of any surreptitious moves to unseat a sitting MP. The rest I will not say, but it turned out I was right, and the vacancy arose shortly thereafter. I want to thank the people of Mico North for the confidence, for the encouragement, the prayers, the constructive criticism. And I say constructive criticism, I don't even know why, because I treat all criticism constructively, to the extent that even when the author of the criticism may have some ill intention, I'm able to sift through it and see what merit, what nuggets of wisdom may reside therein, dismiss the elements that I don't think pertain to me, but extract from it what could be of benefit to me and my people. So I really want to thank the people of Mico North. It's a great honor to serve people. It is a great honor when people, in effect, in asking you and affording you the opportunity to represent them, they are saying to you, I trust you with my life. I trust you with the well-being of my family. I trust you with the future of my grandchildren. That's how I interpret it. And I will say to you, Ricky, therefore, it is not something I take very lightly at all. That I recognize that there are several other persons who can be chosen to do this. But for 10 years now, I've been afforded that privilege. And I pray for great grace every day. I pray for wisdom, for patience, for understanding, and very importantly, for empathy and for compassion. Because there are so many issues that a parliamentary representative has to deal with. There are so many stories that are told to you that sometimes you recognize that it is only through the grace of God that you can be equipped with the intellectual, emotional resources to respond adequately, quite apart from the expectation of material responses. And I'm ever mindful of that. So I want to thank the people. I began by saying at my first public meeting, and I mean it to this day, I will not make enemies because of politics, and nor will I lose my salvation because of politics. And I was boasting the other day that notwithstanding much of what I've been subjected to, and that comes with the territory, that I'm able to smile. And that says a lot.
It is important to have some moments of levity in all of this.
Absolutely. I would have shared with the people of Miku North what we call a mini manifesto. The 2011 manifesto was a 14-point manifesto that reflected, in effect, concerns raised by constituents in the conversations I would have had with them between February of 2011 and November of 2011 when the elections were held. And these 14 points represent their key concerns at that time. Among them, the rehabilitation of sporting facilities, feeder roads for farmers, facilities for fisherfolk, jetty and Poilin, making available opportunities for single mothers to afford their young ones a kindergarten or early childhood education, employment, promotion of culture and related activities. All of these were in there in some form or another. In the 2016 election, similarly, we produced a constituency manifesto that reflected again the essence of many of the conversations we would have had, not only during that first stint, but nearing the election of 2016, some additional ambitions that people expressed found expression in that 2016 manifesto. And there are the things that are not in print in any manifesto, which one would assume or take as a given. Things such as infrastructural development, construction of roads, maintenance of public buildings, assistance to families who are in economic distress, persons requiring assistance with health, education, and other kinds of needs. These don't find expression in a mini manifesto because I take these as the given, the things that you'd expect people to ask of you and people expect that you deliver. That journey has been a very checkered one, very colorful, very challenging on occasions, but particularly gratifying because when you are able to solve a problem for a constituent, when you are able to bring relief in the way, for example, the persons who have recently benefited from food packages and wheelchairs, bursaries and scholarships, and they say to you, Auntie Gail, merci, or thank you, had it not been for you, in their own lexicon, in their own language, in the way in which they feel comfortable, that they express thanks. That is invaluable because it tells you that you are doing something to help. And in the last few weeks in particular, as I have toured the various sites where we are undertaking infrastructural work, such as in Grass Street, in Monipo, John Baptist Hill in Micoud, near the secondary school in Micoud. In fact, in that little hub near the Micoud Secondary School, there are at least 5 things going on simultaneously. We have the construction of a new Micoud Secondary School block, and everybody knows that story. That September when I turned up there and the third form block was in a dilapidated condition, I said, I would not want my kids to go there. So why should I expect the nation's children to attend school in that building? And I took a brave, bold decision. I knocked it down. I knocked it down because I had every confidence that I'll be able to construct a new block. And therefore, with the kind blessing of the Minister for Finance and some mobilization of resources that we were able to undertake jointly, we raised the financing largely through the DVRP program, and here we have it, the construction of a new Micoud Secondary School block, third form block. And I have said that the aspirational goal is to have a new Micoud Secondary School, which you know recently celebrated its 50th anniversary. And we all know the state of that school, and I think it is deserving of a new plant at this time. So albeit block by block, eventually the aspirational goal is that that school will eventually become a new compound. Similarly, the Micoud Health Center, you remember the litany of woes regarding what obtained in a makeshift arrangement in the village near the idlers. And for the health workers, for clients, patients, and their families, we all agree that it's just not the place that they should be served. And finally, after several community meetings and discussions regarding location, concept, design, all of which we took to the people in community meetings, in consultations with the people. And I'm sure you would have seen the building now nearing completion. And the people are grateful for that. Just next door, you have the construction of roads in some areas, virgin roads, places where dirt roads or no road had previously existed. And thanks to the comprehensive rehabilitation and construction of roads and program that we have in the village, that we are seeing some new roads being built there as well, in that hub. And guess what? Not too far off, where the old community center once sat, where a preschool, a government preschool once sat, we have the construction of a new early child education center thanks to the BNTF program. And that too is nearing completion. So just in that area, what is fast becoming the administrative nucleus or hub of the Micoud village, there's so much going on. In my own neighborhood, in Micoud Village Extension Phase 1, the PAC. I recall, Ricky, with great nostalgia, when we used to have PAC Day. And PAC Day was meant to raise funds to build a recreational facility for us, children, because there was designated land for that purpose. And I don't know how many packets of popcorns and how many pieces of barbecue chicken that one would have to sell to build a recreational park. And that is why it meant so much to me that this generation of children in that neighborhood would not have to sell popcorn and hot dogs and barbecue chicken and ice lollies and whatever else. That would be my gift as a child of that community to the children, this generation of children. And so we have there the Children's Recreational Park. Recently, because of the heavy rains, we had some land slippage in there, and I really want to thank the neighbor, Mr. Burke, for his patience. It did take us a while to mobilize resources to construct a retaining wall and to rehabilitate the landslide, so to speak. And I want to thank those who helped in that endeavor. And we've now constructed the wall, and I hope that there will be no further land slippage when we suffer any heavy rain or adverse weather event. In that neighborhood, there are at least 4 main roads, and at no one time was I lucky enough to receive a multi-million-dollar package to construct the road in one go. So as women are known to do, to make the penny stretch, to make the dollar stretch, I was able to do this in phases, largely through the Constituency Development Program.
And let me just add, I think it's said that Sir Arthur always said that the greatest economist in you was his mother.
Yes, I think it's innate to women to know how to stretch a dollar. So I built the main artery first, and then the one that goes past the St. Catherine, Monroe's, Marshall, and Bissett family, then followed by the one that goes past Mr. James, the retired fireman, brown man, Miss Appam, Miss Mattiwin, Ma Backroff. And lately, we've been able to connect these 3 with the road that goes past Miss Bigel, Miss Uterus, and down around the corner by Sabina to Abia, Idelina, down by Go Bakes into the cemetery area. And these people are very, very, very grateful for that. We've also been able, as part of a wider strategic move by the ministry, in light of the extraordinary cost of school rehabilitation, in the face of declining numbers of students in schools, that we undertook to merge several schools around the island. And I know these school mergers were on the cards for a long time, but they were dubbed as politically sensitive. That nobody had the courage to do them because the worry was what would be the political fallout. And I want to thank the permanent secretaries. I think I've had 3, 2 of who have retired, and a third in the person of Miss Charles, who is still with me, who had the courage to pursue this. Because what we did was to go out there and engage stakeholders and to explain to them the rationale for those mergers. That we're not just doing this because it was something to be done, that there was significant justification for those school mergers. And I know that in some constituencies there were colleagues who were very nervous about this. I said, you know what? I'm not doing something unto you that I am not being subjected to myself. Because the merger of Monipo combined and Passias combined became inevitable, especially after we had combed through the Fontenay report that documented the astronomical cost of the rehabilitation of many schools on the island that had fallen into disrepair. And so it appeared cheaper, more sensible, more strategic to merge certain schools, and in the case of the Monipo-Passias merger, to construct a new block to make that merger more comfortable for the incoming students and the existing crop of students. And I'm pleased to say, Ricky, that part of the discussions revealed that there was a road lying in waste, so to speak, that had not been constructed in the way perhaps it had been designed or anticipated. And it's that back street road, that road to the back of the now Monipo-Passias Combined School that links with the main road that goes past the Monipo-Passias School. And I promised the parents and the stakeholders that would construct that road The reason being, we wanted to take the children off the highway at the earliest possible point. And that proved to be the earliest possible point. And that road was completed a couple of weeks ago, and I'm very pleased about that. We are also building an adjoining road, which is the main road that takes you to Comin-Sesen. And that road is currently under construction. Given that I've just mentioned Comin-Sesen, I don't know how many of you recall, and Rick, you were around then, when Dame Sesen Descott had passed away, and we had one of the farewell services at the Pastors Combined School. And in that conversation, we had articulated our vision for Dame Sesen's residence and for that neighborhood. And I've often said that in my heart and in my mind, I really believe that Micoud North, and in particular the Monipo Lapwet Patience area, should be dubbed the cultural capital of St. Lucia. My friends from other parts of the country always giggle when I say that. I said, well, tell me what you have on offer, because I know what we can show. And about 2 years ago, as part of the Creole Day celebrations, a violin festival was planned, organized, and it should have been held at the premises of Sesen Descott's home. And of course, that road was merely a dirt road. And I approached Mr. King, who is the minister responsible for infrastructure, and I said to him, we need to fast track that road to the extent that in our minds the whole country would be converging in that neighborhood to experience and enjoy that violin festival, that music festival, in honor of Dame Sesen and in commemoration of Creole Day. Unfortunately, you will recall that that event was rained out, but guess what? We got the road, and the road is still there. The road was not washed away. It's a solid concrete road that was built by our very own Bradley Sado, who's a homeboy, like we would say, a boy from the community, a young man from the community who's done well for himself. I recall, too, that as I went through the community, both during the 2011 and 2016 elections, and I went through St. Mary. On each occasion, I engaged with people from the community there. All they asked for was that the road be rehabilitated where possible and constructed. Now, there's a ring road that connects to Lomba, and that's what the people were asking for. Whereas I have every reason to trust my colleague minister and to believe that what I saw in the program would come to pass, I knew it was important to signal to the residents that I was serious. And so I was able to carve out some resources from the community development program and to begin the rehabilitation and construction of that road. And so by the Christmas of the following year, after the 2016 election, if my memory serves me well, we're able to do a section of the road. And the balance of that road is now programmed to be done shortly in sequence. We have started Grass Street. We are now in Micoud Village. La Pointe was set back by a week or two because of the new COVID protocols and curfew, and that will be followed by St. Mary in that sequence, in that order. But I want to thank the people of St. Mary because they appreciate and understand that even though we've not done the entire road, that it is coming because it has been programmed, and I have explained that before. And as I engage with them, I help to explain the sequencing of the road program, and that there's this next, so to speak, in the way that I used to say to people in Grass Streets, after the road that goes past the Lynch Favre and Brother Bonaventure and Sister Louis, that there's this next. It's the same way, for example, I had said to the residents along Wen Road, which leads to the Wen playing field in Monipo, and I had said to the sportsmen and women, especially the cricketers, that the Wen Road will be done. And albeit that we did it in phases, now the Wen Road is completed. We did the last chunk after coming in 2016, and now motorists, spectators, sports personalities, sportsmen and women have a smoother ride to the Wen playing field. And while I am on the Wen playing field, I remember very clearly that first meeting we had held at the Monipo Community Center way back in 2011 when I had just entered politics. And at that meeting, we had invited various sports clubs and the sports councils for both Monipo and Miku. And there were persons representing the Pwale community as well. And in that discussion, Ricky, because you've got to understand that residents want for their neighborhood and in their neighborhood the best that can be had.
Absolutely.
But there's an honesty with which you must engage people. And that conversation was a very frank and honest one. Where we agreed that each community could not receive a state-of-the-art facility, but that we would have a kind of division of labor, specialization, focus on various sub-communities. By that I mean that the Wen playing field would be dubbed the cricketing hub, that the playing field in Miku would be seen as primarily for football in the main, and that we would restore and rehabilitate the Patience Court, and that the Fiadel field, which is used every year during the Lenten period, especially during Holy Week, to observe certain sporting activities and traditions, that we would attend to that field then. And we agreed as a community. It took a long while between 2011 and now, but at least we've delivered on some things. We have delivered on the Wen Road. We have delivered on the rehabilitation of the Miku playing field, and that is ongoing as we speak. We have also twice rehabilitated the Patience Court. There was a serious electrical problem with the lighting on the Patience Court, and we have attended to that. And I want to thank the young man who came to my office about 4 weeks ago and indicated that the Patience Court needed to be remarked. You know, and that's what I say to my constituents all the time. You are my eyes and you are my ears. And it is thanks to him, having brought this to our attention, realized, oh, yes, indeed, we need to do some more marking there, and we need to get some basketball rims, which are now on order. But that's the level of interest. That's the level of participation, because it is our community. So whereas the focus at the time was on health and safety and ensuring that those lights were rehabilitated, because you know, Ricky, that many fundraising barbecues, apart from purely sporting activities, if you have a fundraising barbecue, that usually is the location of choice. Absolutely. Or has been in the past. And I worried sick what could possibly happen, and that's why it was very important that we attend to the electrical problem there. So now the marking and the basketball rims, these are easier things to do by far, and certainly not life-threatening. So we can now attend to these things, and I'm really happy to the young people who have made representation that we need to do this with urgency, and as soon as the various protocols or conditions are lifted, that they will be able to enjoy the full functionality of that facility. Because you remember when I held the first Dr. Gale TC Rigobert netball tournament, the expectation was that certain matches would be held there. And so it was while in opposition we discovered that the court was not a netball certified court to the extent that it was not level, and then that's when the issue regarding the electrical problems had come up as well. Unfortunately, I must say, I visited there recently, and you know, that electrical room right there next to the court, I mean, a facility that we've worked on at least twice, looks like it needs a touch-up again. So I'm really hoping that we can invoke that community spirit and sense of collective responsibility, that when we do touch it up again, that we can maintain it. And I know that I've had conversations with the chairperson of the Miku North Constituency Council, and that will be attended to, especially with respect to a maintenance program. It's important to build things, but it's even more important to maintain them so that you can guarantee their longevity. I also want to highlight something which is so dear to my heart. And, there are things, Ricky, that one does not see with the naked eye. These are the conversations, what I call the cause. When people come into your office and you can raconter situation yo.
Cause la cour.
Oui. Et ça pas bagay ou ça répéter parce que moun ka parler ba ou
naturellement.
Yo ka di ou ti sigwe yo. Ek Delè
on pour faire one call you do change sigwe.
Oui. Ek delè moun ka cause pour ek ou ka ranger situation ek ça pas bagay ou ça aller à sous la oui pour répéter mais moi vle di il ka fait mon chay plaisir les moun vinn au ti mwen kon situation qui bien twist on problème qui ka embêté sevel tête yo ek ou ça won soulagement. Par exemple l'année moun peut-être yo ni pour faire l'opération li demain et que te ka espérer peut-être l'argent qui ka sorti l'autre pays on riche on camarade on la famille et l'argent pas vini et que l'opération c'est li demain qui ça au cas de l'hôpital là qui ça au cas de docteur et régulièrement c'est pas une fois c'est ba ça qu'a fait c'est pas deux fois mais là où ça fait ça ba moun ça ka ba ou un soulagement ou même parce que l'homme on vient raconter problème yo c'est pas pour dire juste qu'à parler ou qu'à écouter ou même pas qu'à sentir ça ou qu'à sentir non au fond chez ou même il ka faire la peine
et vous voulez aider situation
et vous voulez aider situation alors so moi voulais dire comme ça c'est bagay moun pa ka wè mais c'est bagay ça ka fait là ni maman peut-être yo joine scholarship pour yo aller l'autre pays mais scholarship là peut-être pas ka payer pour ticket et pas ka payer pour peut-être manger ça ou ka créer partial scholarship et ko ka wè des quantité mais ticket ça bien important puis si yo pas ça aller l'autre pays puis yo même commencer l'école là
bal fini violon ça
oui bien exactement là ni l'autre bagaille peut-être ou pas ka crier non monde pour ça
non pas ça
fait ou rafait ça et yo même là bon délai moun ka di moi yo ka tan moun ka di bagaille yo ka di petit pour tu pas dit tel bagaille non Bible a même do c'est yon qui te devi we di bon Dieu merci il était Jerry comme yo il était Jerry this et qui yon devi we so you do this not to be glorified not to be in receipt of any tremendous thanks I see it as my job that's why they voted for me but it must be said that there's so much that's not seen with the naked eye. And for me, the things that mean the most are the things that don't even require money. So when you're able to go to a bedside, when you're able to send a greeting, when you're able to say a word of congratulations when a child through extraordinary circumstances has been able to do well, as we have done through our bursary program or scholarships, but apart from the material support, when you're able to say you can make it, you can do it, you have it within you, because you do correct guidance counseling too, because there are people who come to you not knowing how much potential they have. You meet them by the wayside. In fact, that's how I came up with the assistance program to mothers or parents with children of preschool age who are out of school. And we would lend them support to send their children to school, because I remember in that period between February of 2011 and November of 2011, and I would encounter so many mothers with children of school age, so to speak. I said, why isn't your child in school? This is a 4-year-old. This is a 5-year-old. And they would explain to me how difficult it was for them to afford preschool. And since that time, therefore, one of the programs that means the most to me is that preschool bursary. Because it does several things. Not only does it afford the child a very important foundational start, but it also frees the parent to seek employment somewhere.
And both the World Bank and the UN have said that preschool education is
the first
critical.
1,000 days of a child's life.
Yes.
Very, very, very important. So that's how that program was born. But it is the relief it brings to the family. It affords the child that very important first step in his or her educational career, but it also frees the parent to assume employment somewhere else. Then there were we have many talented sports people in our community. And some of them perhaps can't afford their gas, can't afford to go on trials. Sometimes the trials are overseas. And you have to very quietly support with a ticket or part of a ticket. These are things you don't talk about. You don't call their names, but in their minds and in your mind, you know you tried. You tried because you're trying to give a head start. That's the thing. You want to give them a jump start, a bang start. That push, an opportunity. And everybody knows my colleagues at the Miku North office, they know how I feel about the elderly. They think I have a particularly soft spot for the elderly and for children. And I think that's true. And even though I don't have children of my own, I say perhaps God did not give me children of my own because he knew that I would have to assume the responsibility for several hundred and thousands of children. So maybe he allowed me, the grace to mother so many more than would ordinarily have been my own within a nuclear family context. And it is something that I'm very happy to do. They're all my children. And when they come up to me and they say, Auntie Gail, there's a way in which they call me that whatever it is they ask for thereafter, as long as it is for their betterment, somehow you make it happen.
They know how to hit the soft spot.
They know the soft spot. They know the soft spot. And it's always a joy. And so that bursary program for preschoolers, that's critical, and we continue to do that. And that's quite outside of, in some cases, what is ordinarily afforded through the various formal government mechanisms, because like I indicated, I started this in opposition without formal resources or government resources or resources from any state agency. Now we have greater access, and this administration has expanded access through the various programs that are championed by the Ministry of Equity through the SSDF. We have also, through the Ministry of Education, made more resources available. The South Louis Community Bursary, for example, Community College Bursary. Many of my constituents have benefited from that. And it takes me to a very heartwarming story. When we conceptualize, and I want to give a friend of mine whose name shall not be mentioned, but right after the 2016 election, he asked me the question, what will be my legacy? I'm starting, and I'm telling you, right after the election. I don't think he allowed me a good month to settle into the job. He said, well, what do you want your legacy to be?
He kickstarted your 100 days.
Yeah, pretty much. Absolutely, pretty much. And together, we conceptualized what is now called the hashtag Educate St. Lucia initiative. And one of the very important pillars in there, or components thereof, is what we call the first generation program. And that first generation program is to afford students who come from families where no one has previously gone to, or no one has attended a tertiary institution, no one has had the benefit of a tertiary education, that we would make available the opportunity for these children, these students in particular, to have a smoother pathway into tertiary education. And I recall at the launch of that program, the hashtag Educate St. Lucia program at Bay Gardens, a young lady from Monrepo who was a recipient of a scholarship to Monroe College under our first generation program, she gave a testament that she would not have ordinarily thought, given her family circumstances, that she would have one day had the benefit of a tertiary education. But here's the important bit. It wasn't only what it did for her, or what it was doing for her, but very importantly, it was already signaling to her younger siblings that they too could aspire to a tertiary education. And that is precisely the spirit and the intention of that program.
That intergenerational approach. Yes.
Exactly. And because, Ricky, you and I know that still, unfortunately, and for many developing countries, there's a very, very, very strong correlation between your economic circumstance and what your educational fortunes may be.
Indeed.
And I have been adamant that we need to break that nexus, that education is a right, and that as long as children have the ability, we should make provision for them. And therefore, that program is very close to my heart. And there are scores of students around the island who have benefited. And we were able to marry that with an ACT initiative, which is a pre-college exam to U.S. colleges and universities largely, but that score is also accepted in Canada and other parts of the world as well. And through that program, we're able to afford students who had scored really well, partial scholarships, in some cases full scholarships, to Ozarks and to other colleges with which we have articulation agreements, and by that I mean prearranged facilities for partial and full scholarships for students who've done well. And I'm happy that there are solutions who in the last few years have benefited from that program. We have been able to expand the scholarship offering through the Taiwanese program, through Morocco, the Moroccan scholarships. Were largely undersubscribed, but now we've seen greater uptake because what we have done in the last 2 years or so is to hold very informative press conferences and college fairs to advise of what is available. The counselors in schools, a lot of our citizens don't realize that the counselors also give career guidance counseling. They don't only deal with troubled issues, or troubled students, but that they also provide career guidance counseling. And so they have been very, very instrumental in the success of that program. Also, in the last, was it 2018? Time has gone by so quickly. Maybe 2019, a team had gone to Florida and had toured some colleges and universities. And again, the intention was to embark upon articulation agreements, MOUs, whatever phraseology you want to use, but essentially to create opportunities, more opportunities for solutions who are desirous of studying in the U.S. And that means a lot to us, because for those of us who've had to take student loans, you will know that that's your first mortgage. And for many of us, we carry that student loan into our adult lives, as I had to do. You know, and it is one thing if I could save someone from having to carry it, is that big student loan that somehow does not disappear very quickly at all. And so this is very close to my heart.
If you don't mind, Minister, whilst we're on schools, the innovative idea of the government, the Sports Academy, bringing a new thrust to...
That's my baby. We call it our baby in the ministry. I hope P.S. doesn't hear that, because it's her baby. She calls it her baby. It's our baby. The Sports Academy was born out of a sentiment that we had harbored even while in our position, that and you've heard it, that many systems in the region cater for that fat middle, what we call that general cocktail of courses where students develop, some core competencies, but with very little opportunity for specialization and for furthering their God-given skills, whether in the area of creative arts, in technical vocational areas, in the area of sports. And so initially we had conceptualized what we call centers of excellence or schools of excellence. And we had started with 2 in the first instance. The Angers Secondary School was earmarked to become a center of excellence for creative arts and industry. And we were able in the first instance at least to do some create what we call magnet programs, where it's a packaging of courses, a menu of courses that afford students a foretaste of that set of courses that give them some initial exposure. And why the Angers Secondary School? I always say I remember very vividly when I was in opposition and Angers Secondary would invite me to donate a prize towards their graduation ceremony. Now, to attend those ceremonies. And for some reason, I don't know what it is. It was just happenstance, coincidence. The cultural display, the talent on display during those ceremonies, I was always taken aback. And I asked myself, was there something in that school, in their programming, in their leadership, something that somehow allowed for the blooming of that kind of talent? And I thought maybe that's one of the areas we could look at with respect to furthering that agenda as it pertains to creative arts and industry. We have not moved to the other elements of that program. We've not gone past the packaging of courses and ensuring that there's some initial exposure. With respect to the Center of Excellence for Sports, which we now call the Sanusha Sports Academy, we have moved farther along than we did with Angers Secondary School as it pertains to creative arts and industry, because we were and have been able to incorporate the Sports Academy into the wider sports program, national sports program, which include not only the rehabilitation of fields, but also the availability of a specialized program for a dual path of development for promising young men and women in these various sporting disciplines. I recall when we held the first consultation, which might have been back in 2017, thereabout, and we had in attendance the likes of Brian Lara, Earl Jean, and some other well-known sporting personalities. And those in attendance from the sporting fraternity all lamented that they had waited long enough for that day. I can say to you, too, that at that meeting, many had little hope that it would ever happen. Yes. They thought it was yet another pronouncement. And
a lot of naysayers.
Yes, there were lots of naysayers, but you don't know how I'm fueled by that. You tell me something cannot be done, and trust me, I exert everything I have. I employ every resource I have to make it happen.
And some in opposition quarters refer to it as merely renderings.
Yes, I remember that. But we do have real students in there. They're not phantom students. We have sporting programs. We do have coaches. We do have great leadership from the principal, Mrs. Charles, and her sporting counterparts. It is the school on island that has a residency component because we thought that was an important element, given we did not want to discriminate against students who are coming from other parts of the island and may have had to incur transportation costs, etc. We really wanted to level the playing field to ensure that as long as the student had capacity and maintained an average of 60%, that we would welcome them into that school. And the kind of grooming that takes place there, it is really holistic. It is not just that you hone a sporting skill, that they are grooming young men, decent, respectable young men who also are very good at their respective sport.
Very talented.
Very talented. And we can now boast of having some women, some females on board as well. So I want to thank the early pioneers. It does take courage to commit to something from the embryonic stage and to say, I share in this vision, and I too am confident that it can happen.
And let me just add, Mr. Minister, one of the great sparks, I think you'd remember early 2019, we had the Martinique government, Badminton Sports, sent 20 young men to learn to study cricket.
Yes.
And it was our coaches and our, So
absolutely. It was a great cultural exchange experience. And one of the things that we have within that broader vision is not only that we provide foreseen solutions that we anticipate, as I said last week at our annual meeting of Ministers of Education of the OECS. Who knows? It can become that elite school for the region. Each island does not have to expend resources to build their own elite sports academy. We have the freedom of movement of persons in the region, and we have harmonized CXC syllabi, and we anticipate that there should be seamless transition should we want to invite or accommodate other regional students as well. So I'm really happy with the progress. In fact, we released a video at last week's Council of Ministers of Education at the OECS meeting, and it is something to watch. I think it is now on my Facebook page, and I welcome viewers and listeners to peruse that page and to get a taste of what it is we do at the Sports Academy. And I want to thank Prime Minister for making it a priority. Thanks to the Minister for Sports in the person of Minister Estefan and Minister Montout, who is also a formidable sportsman in his own right, for agreeing that this should be done in his constituency and with his full support. The rationale was we had the physical space. The school had a very strong tradition in sports as well. We are close to the Aquatic Center, the Beausejour Field, the Grosley Field, the tennis court, that there are accompanying amenities in the immediate vicinity, and that in the immediate foreground of the school that there was physical space for expansion.
Yes, and then because of COVID, I think very soon the team will be coming. I think next week they'll start to work on the track and to really move things along as the COVID.
There will be a lot of activity in the coming weeks. Yes. I like to wait for the thing to come to either full fruition or near full fruition before I speak of it. Yes. But there'll be a lot of activity there in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. Minister, let me just say that we live in an age of technology. I think you alluded to in Parliament e-learning. I think the economist J.K. Calbridge said it is the imperatives of technology and not the images of ideology that determines true economic progress. So we've had a lot of discussions about the laptop program and the government's new approach, a more comprehensive approach in addressing that. So could you speak to that?
The day has finally come. I recall with great fondness the conversation that I had with the then Minister for Education in the person of deceased Arson James. He was the then Minister for Education while I was conducting research towards my PhD. And even thereafter, when I thought that I should zero in on the infusion of ICTs in education. And I had a full-length interview with him. And I remember that well, and I still have his furniture. I'll never forget the furniture. I keep it in his memory, too. He's served us well. And the conversation revolved around competing needs and priorities and where computers might fall in that list, and the extent to which those computers may bite into an already slim purse, and whether it was a necessity or a would like to have. And that conversation has found expression in my doctoral thesis. It found expression in conferences I attended all over the world because I used St. Lucia as a case study, and in a journal piece that I did some years thereafter. And as I toyed with the idea of e-education in St. Lucia, myth or reality, is what I left. That was what the impression I was left with after that conversation. I realized that notwithstanding the ubiquity of technology, notwithstanding that technology was all over, everywhere, in every aspect of our lives, in everything that we did, that was yet to be expressed meaningfully within the education sector. And while in opposition, we gave very careful thought to what e-education would mean, would look like. And I can say boldly, because there's no harm in that, while I was advisor to Mr. King, well before I started my political career, because it was the thing that was being done in much of the third world anyway, the question did arise, should we embark upon a laptop program? And the descriptor itself says it all. A laptop program. A laptop program is exactly that. A laptop program comes with nothing else. A laptop. Whereas we have insisted on the full integration of technology in the educational experience, in the experience of learning and in the experience of teaching. And for one to accommodate that full experience.
Let me just point at it. So you were saying that, if I deduce what you're saying, that in the previous One Laptop program, the introduction of technology for the teachers themselves was not accompanied.
I will say to you that the program as conceptualized previously did not take into account as comprehensively as we have the other accompanying components. So we have always maintained that to equip a student with a laptop on its own does little good. There is greater benefit to be had if that child does have the accompanying digital skills, starting with something as basic as keyboarding skills, for example, can troubleshoot, can navigate certain software, especially learning platforms.
And that's important because we have moved from the cash machine and we're not going back.
There's no going back. I don't know what is our preoccupation with that phrase, especially in the context of COVID. There's no such thing as going back. When there is a paradigmatic structural shift, a systemic shift in the world, it's exactly that. A significant shift, you move into a new gear, a new reality, and that's the new reality. So computers, electronic devices, digital devices are all part and parcel of that last technological revolution that had at its core the digitization of business processes, entertainment, everything that you and I do. And so education could not be left out of that. That we speak of a knowledge economy not for descriptor purposes or description purposes only. It means something. So that comprehensive program, as conceptualized while we were in opposition, now that we're in government, we recognized and gave full expression to the accompanying components. And by that I mean address issues of connectivity, issues of digital competency training for students as well as teachers, ensuring that now, funny enough, because of COVID, we speak largely of online learning, but online learning is a component of e-education. And well before COVID and well before all of these conversations about distributed learning and online learning, we had started retrofitting schools, as we did, for example, with the technical drawing labs, to allow for the upgrade of technical drawing labs, for example, given that technical drawing itself had gone through its own metamorphosis and there was largely a move away from traditional methodologies to more digital ways of doing things. And so it was necessary for us to outfit technical drawing labs with the requisite technology to allow for that shift. And I want to thank the Taiwanese government for their support in that regard. I also want to thank the Taiwanese government for their further participation in the GINet program, which affords communities access to Wi-Fi. I want to thank them for their partnership with South Louis Community College. Again, another effort to ensure that our lecturers, teachers, and students have greater exposure and can enhance their own ability with respect to leveraging the technology. I want to thank also USAID for their part in our robotics program. Thank the OAS for their part in the Pro Futuro program, which again is yet another program that allows for capacity building. The Commonwealth of Learning has continued to partner with us to allow for more teachers to be trained in the use of integrated technology in the classroom. And again, it is how best we can leverage that technology to enhance the teaching and learning experience. More recently, you'll recall that we have had to acquire MiFi devices, thousands of them, to allow for greater connectivity in households where previously there was no internet connection and or that families could not afford that. And these MiFi devices come with 1 year's data, free data for those families. We have also acquired some learn books, and those learn books are targeted at the secondary school students in particular. We had started with a pilot in third form, and we have since migrated to other forms to be brought in on that program. In the lower schools, we recognize that COVID has forced us to fast track what was already in train, and so there's a provision for grade 6 students and down the line in that order. As I have indicated, that these are being rolled out in turn. There's a schedule of the rollout of this, and we await more devices from partner agencies such as the Global Partnership for Education through the OECS, which has been charged with procuring devices not only for St. Lucia, but for the other member states as well. You will recall that we have said that the aspirational goal is that every child should be brought into the digital age. That if it is at age 16, 10, 11, some children do have bank accounts very early on, and you are going to go to the ATM machine, you do encounter technology. You have to put in a PIN, you have to read the screen, you have to press a button, you have to press something, you have to follow an instruction. So it is very important that while we can boast that we now live in an era where knowledge is key, we live in an era dubbed the knowledge economy and the digital economy, that we are duty bound to provide our students with the requisite skills to participate very meaningfully in that global knowledge economy, or that e-economy. I can say to you further that at the South Louis Community College, for example, we have done more to incorporate digital media courses so that the students on having graduated from secondary school and transitioning into Sir Arthur Lewis, that they do have on offer a wider menu of courses that fall within the wider rubric of digital media courses. So we are working. We are continuing to work. I think you would have seen what we're doing with TVET. We've just been able to start the implementation of a program that means so much to us, that has at its core what the TVET fraternity has been asking for so long, what the TVET Council has long desired. And that is a significant injection of resources to revamp the sector, to resource the sector with the requisite manpower, reskilling of the facilitators, who often accommodate the various programs that fall under that wider rubric of TVET. We have also been able, through that project, to make a provision for the acquisition or procurement of state-of-the-art equipment to allow for the various technical subjects to be delivered in a state-of-the-art environment, leveraging today's technology, not yesterday's technology. So we are grateful for that. We also have, through that program, and thanks to the TVET policy that we passed recently, and I must say that one of the components of that policy that really gladdens my heart is the infusion of a TVET, a gender-sensitive TVET policy. So there is a component that speaks to the inclusion of gender within the wider framework of a TVET policy. So I'm really grateful for that as well. So we will see new life being breathed into the TVET fraternity, that we will have the upgrading of facilitators and facilities. The ambition is that somewhere along the line too, that we will have a specially dedicated space in the same way, for example, that we have a center of excellence for sports, that we may very well have a center of excellence for TVET. And we are looking at certain possibilities. I know we've had conversations with persons in the South, with the real estate, that we can consider what used to be the abattoir, the space designated for the abattoir. We're thinking that maybe can be repurposed. So we are toying with various ideas and concepts to allow for the development of our students in that regard. It does call, however, for a greater embrace of our national vocational qualifications and the CDQs as well, which is a CARICOM-wide qualification, which has equivalents in the international community. We know that whether at level 1, level 2, level 3, there are international equivalents as well. So we know that it's bona fide. And that works in tandem with our newly passed legislation for the establishment of accreditation councils. You recall a couple of years ago we did that. We were able to pass the accreditation bill. We now have a framework, a legal framework for the accreditation council for medical schools and for everything outside that. So we've got two. And I was very encouraged by a conversation that we had with Prime Minister when we did our education stock take a couple of weeks ago, that I have reason to believe that it is going up on the list of priorities. So I'm excited about it, especially since we got the money from the World Bank. A conversation which, by the way, I was very intimately involved with my team. I think it would have been maybe 2018. We had gone to Washington to brainstorm what Sanusha's needs were at the time. And that emerged as one of our top priorities. So I'm happy to see that it has found its rightful place within the wider project that has been undertaken here in St. Lucia by the World Bank. And St. Lucians will benefit from that as well.
Indeed. Just let me just let public know that you are on to Constituency Vibes with me. My guest this evening is Dr. Gail T.C. Rigobert, Minister for Education, Gender Innovation, Sustainable Development, and MP for Mykonos. For you opening the lines as well. The number to call is 456-0931, and of course to share your views in that regard. And as I say that, Minister, calls are coming fast and furious. Good evening. You're on to Constituency Vibes. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, good night. Welcome.
Hi, good night.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Awesome. I would like to say to Dr. Regulus to continue doing the awesome work that she's doing. We appreciate everything that she has done and has and will continue to do for us in the constituency of Newfoundland. I heard she mentioned so many projects that are happening in the constituency. However, there is one project that is very dear to my heart as an athlete. I remember very clearly that during our victory rally that was held after we won the general election, she said the reason she kept that rally there because she was confident that she would give us a new facility or build a new facility for us. However, I've realized that over the past days we've had a few delays. I can recall going to bed every night, waking up the next morning thinking that I would see that green soap and I will feel when I come down that hill. But that has not happened. Can you just inform us as to what is happening, why the delays on the facility to make the playing field?
Just before Minister speak, caller, I just want to give you some assurance. You see this happening so far, so you know a lot of things are going to happen, Minister. And there is so as well.
Thanks for that. Yes, we were in the queue, have been in the queue. Sufre and there is so are very advanced now, and so we can rest assured that Miko will happen. I can say to you that when I met with the engineers...
Can you hold the line, caller?
Sure. Oh, that's when we met with the engineers at the tail end of last year because it appeared that the work had slowed down. I inquired and PM and I were in that meeting. We convened that meeting with the contractor and we were advised that they had encountered some architectural, technical construction challenge. I think called among them some soft spots, I think was the phrase I heard, one of the phrases.
Can you hold a second, caller?
And that was addressed. So you will notice that things have picked up. And although we have missed the deadlines, and some of this is just so sentimental because we had hoped to have the finals of the Ryder Cup on that field to coincide with the opening of the field, but COVID and the technical difficulties did delay. But I'm sure you've seen, caller, that there has been a lot of more activity recently. So we are on course, notwithstanding what's happening with the new phase of slowing down of things in the economy, but we are on course to finish.
Thank you for holding. Welcome, caller.
Yes, am I on?
Yes, you're on. Good night. Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
First, just want to congratulate Gail on the great speech at the House of Parliament. But my question is, why did it take so long? Why y'all were not out there explaining things to the public? Why does it have to be at the end, almost election time? Why weren't you telling the people all the good things that you've been doing and explaining to them? Just curious why you're waiting for. But you did a great speech, and I do understand what you were talking about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller.
Thank you, caller, for your gracious words of encouragement. I know I've heard a lot of that in the past 24 hours. Why hadn't we said this before? The thing is, respectfully, this has been said so many times in so many spaces.
Just hold a second, caller.
So many times in so many spaces.
Good evening. Just hold a minute.
Sure.
But I think yesterday it was presented in a more concise, relatable way, and so it resonated with many viewers and listeners. But at every opportunity, we've endeavored to explain that comprehensive approach to e-education. You notice we don't say the government has a laptop program, because a laptop program is exactly that, a laptop program. We're doing so much more. It cannot be dubbed a laptop program. What we are doing is the equivalent of the infusion or integration of ICTs, information communication technologies, in the education system to enhance the learning and teaching experience, and that there are several components which I explained yesterday: connectivity, upskilling, navigating software, training of teachers, the students, ensuring that we have accompanying courses. There's so many other components, retrofitting classrooms, and so the learn books, devices that come with curricula so that students really do have access to learning material. So thank you, caller. I am happy that this time it resonated more than it did previously. Thank you.
Good evening, caller. Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Hello, good night.
Good night. Welcome.
I'd like to ask Dr. Jill Ricobert a question.
Go right ahead, caller.
What have you done for the young people from Likud, especially with respect to education?
Thank you, caller. That's a big question.
Thank you very much, caller.
It's a big question because there are several components. As I said earlier on, Ricky, and I'm going to take it in some logical order, what the intervention...
Can you hold the line a minute, caller?
The intervention we've made for students to allow for them to attend preschool or early childhood education centers, especially those who come from underprivileged or economically challenged families. What we've done with the bursaries, many students have benefited from bursaries for primary school, secondary school, and tertiary education institutions as well. There are several persons from Mico North who have benefited from the various scholarships on offer. We have people from Mico North at university in Morocco, in Taiwan, in Cuba, right here at Monroe, and in other universities. There's some who have partial support from my office who are attending university in the US. We have lent support to medical students who perhaps need to go overseas to take their exams. So that's one. Well, not one, these are several. We have also expanded the Mikud Secondary School, replaced the block at the Mikud Secondary School, and that comes with some expansion as well of the service offering. We have constructed a new block at the Monipo Patience Combined School. We have also assisted preschools more recently, especially with what's going on with COVID. We've been able to lend some assistance to those preschools to help to soften the blow of COVID-19. We've also been able to, through our career fairs, we both in opposition and in government, have held job fairs or career fairs where we offer apprenticeships, scholarships, printers, devices. And what was special about the recently held career fair was there was a Dress for Success component. So quite apart from job placement opportunities, we also taught you how to conduct yourself in an interview, a dress code, other mannerisms, makeup, you name it. So that there's a lot. It's a mouthful.
Thanks for holding, caller. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm holding on.
You are now on. We welcome, caller.
Okay. I'd like to say a big thank you. Yes, I would like to say a big thank you to my rep, Dr. Gail T.C. Rigobot, for building such a nice road in New Extension Phase 1 called the Path. We never thought that we would get such a nice road. Continue doing the good work, my rep. Good night, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, caller.
Oh, thank you very much. I got goosebumps. That's my neighborhood. Thank you very much. Thank you. You know, I remember riding my bike on that road, and trust me, having to climb that hill through the rocky road on your bike is no easy feat, but I think I'm reaping the benefits now. I still have strong legs.
Welcome, caller. Good night. Welcome to Constituency Vibes. Hello, good night, caller. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, good night, caller. Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Hi, I want to first thank our rep, and I want to say in her mini manifesto in 2011, she said that she would be helping the single mothers sending their children to preschool. Is she satisfied with the level of work or the level of help that she has already given to the single parents?
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for that. like I said, we have continued to lend support, and it's something that I started while in opposition. Now, with more resources available, we can attend to more families in need. I still wish that more families would access that facility because, importantly, it is not only that we afford the child an education, but that it allows for the parent to take up a job during the day as well. And I'm sure that's very important. The other thing is that it's so encouraging to see some of the students who would have benefited from that program when they were little and to actually watch them grow up in the last 10 years that I've been at this. So it's very gratifying to watch them grow
Good
and
evening.
develop.
Just hold the line and call up, please.
To watch them grow and develop and to benefit. But I would like for more people to access that because there's still parents out there who have not accessed that service. Maybe they are unaware. So hopefully tonight, Ricky, more people are aware of how committed I am to that promise, that we will lend the support so that the children can go, can attend the preschool, like we call it, casually.
Thanks, holding caller. Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Rigobert.
Hello, how are
I'd like
you?
to ask you two questions. The first one, what are some of the contributions that you have had to make to education in your constituency especially, and what are some of the challenges you had trying to execute them? And the second one is, some people in my area say that you have not done much. That's magnitude. What do you have to say about that? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, caller.
Thank you very much. I'll take the last one first. Magnitude is a community that's made up of...
Can they hold a minute, caller?
Yes, that's made up of maybe 50-something, 60-something households. We have quite a few young students there. About 22 of them between infant school age and maybe secondary school age. There's a community center there, and that community center has been in urgent need of attention. I recall in the last couple of months we had a conversation with the OECS, and they were willing to partner with us to upgrade that facility, and that we agreed to match our resources since neither of us had sufficient resources to undertake the quantum of work that we were desirous of taking, and also what we thought the people deserve. And so we agreed to marry resources to allow for us to do something impactful. I spoke with the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Infrastructure and the Minister, both of who are critical to this process and are in receipt of the letter asking for their requisite technical input, which is an important precursor to that project rolling out. We have had to undertake significant work on the Margaret River. You know, it is a community that is very susceptible to heavy rains. And every time it rains, my heart skips a beat. My boots are right next to my washing machine in Nico. So that should there be any heavy rains, I can, like we say in Creole, I can put foot. But thankfully this year, I did not have to do that because I think that to a large extent we were able to preempt the bad weather and did not have as many incidents of flooding as we had previously, though we did have a few, but certainly not as we did in previous years. So with our various beautification programs, but very importantly, we continue to submit an application to the BNTF to ask for the construction of a road connecting Margaret to La Pointe or / Patience.
Kind of loop road or something?
A loop road. And that road is important for several reasons. The hairpin bend that connects the rest of the country, the south of the country to the north of the country, is the only one hairpin bend we have in Monaco. The only one route between the north and the south of the country is already compromised. Right between Miss Shallery's farm, northbound, going up to the hairpin bend, that whole corner is already compromised. And that's one of the reasons we gave for that new road in linking Margaret and Lapwand. It would also help to open up the Margaret community to more economic community with evident or obvious accompanying social benefits, economic and social benefits. And we've not had the good fortune of having the BNTF honor that request. It is something that's still very close to my heart that I would like to see happen. But in the meantime, we continue to pump quite a bit of money to keep the water at bay. And hopefully in time we can have residents appreciate that it may make good sense to move to the higher part of the community. Because there's significant land on the hill and farther in as well. But with that connecting road, perhaps we can really open up the community.
Your listeners and viewers, you're on to Constituency Vibes. Our number is 456-0931. And my guest this evening is Dr. Gail T.C. Rigobert, member for Miko North and Minister of Education. Hello, good night, caller.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Yes, hello, good evening.
Good evening, we can hear you. Go ahead. Hello, can you?
Hello,
yes,
caller.
okay. Good night. Auntie Gail, I would just like to congratulate you on all of your efforts as a minister, especially in your constituency. Also, I would like to congratulate your party from apparently what is the most active youth arm that we have seen in quite a while. I'd like to also encourage you to continue inspiring all of the young ladies, the youth who aspire to be ministers one day, that you continue doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller.
I must say something about the youth arm. Ricky, a lot of people don't know this. I am a product of the youth arm. I joined the youth arm in my A-level uniform.
Interesting.
When the headquarters were on Marion Street. And at that time, I would have participated in youth parliamentary debates, would have represented our party, our country in St. Vincent. And you know what I won't forget about that? I think when we did the St. Vincent debate, if my memory serves me well, at the time, I think that I assumed a role in opposition. Lo and behold, I started my political career in opposition as well. But like my friends or politicians around the world said to me back in 2011 when I had won my seat, but regrettably the party had lost, I don't know how they were able to muster the courage to say this to me, but they said to me, oh, that's the best thing to happen to you. So at the time, Rick, it was the most cruel thing anybody could have said to me. But every day that I spend in politics, they're so right. It's painful. My people suffered a lot while I was in opposition because, you know, in this system, you know, there are issues with an opposition MP accessing resources when the Labour Party is in power. And Miko North knows that better than most other constituencies, if you know what I mean. We have our history with that.
Yes, indeed.
But opposition served me well. You learn your politics in opposition. There's something very attractive and magnetic about being in power and being in office and being a government minister. It is when you are in opposition you know who your troops are. It is when you're in opposition you learn the politics. It is in opposition you know who's there with you, who's that one person who will turn up at that community meeting, who's that one volunteer who will do the potholing with you and truly volunteer, not expecting to be paid. It is in that time I developed a very close bond with my constituents because, you know, my grandmother always said, "Moun dou passe l'argent." So even when you may not have resources to give, you give time, you show concern, empathy and compassion. You sit on the steps with them and you raconte and you cause and you laugh and you giggle. That is where you can seal that relationship. When in government, you get torn and pulled in all kinds of directions and you're more focused on now delivering to them. But the relationship building starts in opposition. And for those who are lucky and to have won on their first take and to be in government on their first take, congratulations. But I tell you, I appreciate my experience of getting to know my people in those years that I was in opposition. And I think it's an experience that has served me well. But I came through the youth arm, and I want to thank the young people who have the courage to affiliate and to do so respectfully, and to have a say in their well-being and in what happens in their country. And we have a very vibrant youth arm. And I want to encourage those who haven't yet joined the youth arm to do so, because I think it did me well. I learned a lot of politics while in the youth arm, and got to learn know a lot of personalities. So the relationship I have, for example, of people like Mr. Eldred Stevens, he was the one who accompanied us when we went overseas to our various debates. He was the one who did the career guidance counseling with me as a young person. You know, you can't forget that. These relationships you cherish for life. So there is a lot to be said
Strong
about
bonds are forged.
very, very strong bonds. So there's a lot to be said about being in a youth arm, being part of a political organization and growing in that organization. And a lot of people don't realize how early on I was engaged in this fantastic business I'm called to serve.
Minister, as we getting ready to wrap up pretty shortly, the time flies. We will definitely have to bring you back as well. There's so much to discuss and talk about. The school plant in the COVID environment, just share with us what has happened in that regard.
I think I started off by saying, Ricky, that no one has the prescription, no one has the panacea, no one has the right formula. There's no right formula in this COVID environment. You prescribe something, you test it, you wait, you see how well it works. If it works well, you continue. If it doesn't, you pull back. And you must have the wisdom and the courage to acknowledge when something is not working quite as well as you had anticipated, and to pull back, tweak, and then go again. And that's what we've had to do in the education sector. And that is true all over the world. That all over the world you've seen schools closing and opening, and some opening for longer and others closing for longer. But here in St. Lucia, I think there's something that really makes the work lighter. And I'll tell you what it is. My colleagues in the ministry will tell you my mantra is engage, engage, engage. Consult, consult, consult. And it comes from a place that I fervently believe that no one person has the answer. And when you're going through very trying times in particular, you need to afford yourself the benefit of the wisdom of the collective. And to give voice to those various perspectives. And that is what we've done. We've engaged stakeholders, we've disagreed, we've agreed, we've had to implement measures that we've had to tweak along the way because COVID is doing its own thing. And somehow we have to remain in step. So we acknowledge that no one has the right answer, if there's any such thing.
I mean, like the virus mutates, our plants must mutate as well.
Exactly. As the virus mutates, so we must prove ourselves to be nimble and malleable and adjustable and resilient too. And I think we've proven that in the education sector. There are raging debates and sufficiently convincing debates to suggest perhaps the safest place of our students is in schools. I don't have the data on that. What we do know is that when students are in schools, we do very well in subscribing to and adhering to the protocols. teachers, students, and other actors in that space as well. What we do know, however, is that precisely because of the numbers we're talking about in schools, there's an additional anxiety, and we respect that. And that is why we've done so well with advocating for psychosocial support, not only for our students, but for our teachers as well. And therefore, let me thank the Ministry of Health, which has also offered to complement the services that we offer should our teachers need more, to access more of that service, so to speak. But to acknowledge that what we are doing in the education sector is, one, to ensure that we minimize the anxiety, two, to ensure that there is minimum disruption to learning, or put otherwise, to ensure that there's continuity in the education experience. That three, that this affords us the opportunity to better equip our schools, teachers, students, and parents with the requisite skills, know-how, understanding to allow for learning in today's context. And that learning is largely of a mixed modality, where we do have to employ some online learning as well, which is the way we should have gone decades ago. But as a small country, we sure took our time to get there, but the hour is nigh. And that is why, like the Chinese proverb suggests, there's opportunity in crisis, that this has allowed for us to accelerate many of the plans that we had. You know, we had passed our ICT in schools policy already. We had already initiated the conversation of the OAS. The Commonwealth of Learning program was well in train. We were able to beef that up significantly. USAID had been doing its stuff with us as well, with robotics, the Global Partnership for Education, which was very generous and allowed for us to outfit several education offices around the island studio, so teachers can record their best classes so that students can access those. You know, so COVID has done that. And we ought to see this as an opportunity to get it right, but getting it right is not something that will happen overnight. We have to continue to work very closely with stakeholders. I had a fantastic...
Kindly hold, please, caller.
We had a fantastic meeting with the National Students' Council. I know that the Chief of Education has met with other youth organizations as well, the early education sector, many stakeholders. The important thing is we're all in this together. No one has the perfect equation, no one has the right equation, and we must have a teachable spirit in all of this and be open to multiple perspectives, and in the end, after we would have weighed it all, do what is best for the children of this nation. I would not want for the students in St. Lucia to suffer any greater disadvantage than any other set of students anywhere else in the world, because the entire world is experiencing this. But we have an opportunity to do what is best for our students by employing that which we have available to us, by maximizing our resources in education, and as the Minister for Finance has proven, by making it a priority that truly our students, our children are our number one priority.
You're on to Constituency Vibes, 456-0931. My guest tonight is Dr. Gail T.C. Rigobert, Minister of Education, Gender Innovation, Sustainable Development. We are on Sky FM 93.1. Minister, Sustainable Development, Small Island Developing State, climate change, all of the vulnerabilities, although the great Schumacher says small is beautiful, but small has its attendant problems in that regard. And for small islands like us, the issue of climate financing, smart climate building, all of those things impact upon us, especially in a crisis time like that.
Ricky, let me say what a joy it has been to work with the team at Sustainable Development. It's a team made largely of women, incidentally. Very talented, very progressive, very independent. Officers who hold their own, not only here, but regionally and internationally, can stand tall above many other international players who perhaps have many more resources than we do. I want to thank them for their hard work. Not many people realize that sustainable development mobilizes a lot of resources for programs that are implemented through other agencies under the rubric of whether it be, like you said, climate financing, for example, whether it be conservation work, as we do with the PMA and other activities along the East Coast that are ongoing as we speak, biodiversity, conversion to renewable energy, because as you know, we have our nationally determined contributions, the goals and ambitions that we have given expression to and are actively working towards. So I want to thank the team. I want to thank the team for their fantastic work. It's a great team, and St. Lucia has been able to distinguish itself in the international community because of their hard work and their talent. I also want to say that under the gender relations rubric, and in that unit, we do a lot of important work. And next month, we celebrate International Women's Day, and we will go into greater detail on some of what we've done. We've been able to put together a package of essential services for vulnerable women, for women in general. We've been able to repurpose resources to attend to women who've been further marginalized economically because of COVID-19. We've found some resources thanks to the Canadian government, to expand our housing facility for vulnerable women and children. We've been able to frame more policies that are intended to safeguard the rights of women. We've been able to infuse more energy and good sense into some of the policy agendas that speak to our wider development ambition, ensuring that there's a gender-sensitive component. We've also been able to attract resources for training of women, for training of NGOs and CSOs that deal with women. And in the coming weeks, we'll talk some more about our legislative agenda. And of course, we work in tandem with other agencies such as Human Services or Ministry of Equity, Ministry of External Affairs, when it comes to human rights, for example. And I'm just really happy that we have made significant gains. There is some distance to go still. There's a lot more we have to do to correct some of the unsavory, heinous, and sensitive comments and crimes that are committed against women. And more recently, we've had loss of life again. And it's always very sad to hear of that, but I want to assure our women out there that we continue to work in their best interest, but we need male partners as well. The rights of women depend on men understanding and appreciating the rights of women. When we speak of gender-based violence, whereas largely in our community, women are the victims, there are males who are also victims of gender-based violence. So the conversation needs to involve both men and women. We were worried at some point in the Caribbean about the disappearance of the Caribbean male. What are we doing for our young boys and men? And I disagree with people who believe that a gender relations unit should be, exclusively concerned about the well-being of women and girls.
Minister, if I may just add, I think in that regard, they say nom fini.
Non pas fini. No nom too. In fact, I want to thank the young men with who we collaborated late last year to commemorate International Men's Day, which goes very quiet. I'm not in the business of being angry with men or angry about men, and men are part of our society. This thing is biblical. They're part of the world, part of the universe. They're here with us. They're our partners, our friends, our brothers, our sisters, our brothers our husbands. They are our partners. The men are our brothers. They are our partners. They are our colleagues. They are our cousins. They are everything intended to work as designed in partnership with women. And so we really need to appreciate their role. And I want them too to partner with us, especially with respect to gender-based violence and promoting the rights of women. When men understand that, when they learn to respect women, when they learn to see women as partners, when they learn, to coexist, and when they learn how symbiotic that relationship can be, how mutually beneficial that relationship can be, when there is mutual respect. Because I often boast that, yes, I've spent a few days in school and I can hold my own, but the Bible suggests that I need a male partner to help with, to complement, to embellish, to enrich. And so that partnership is important. I don't want for us to denounce the role of men in our society in whatever capacity.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily as your spouse, but certainly we see them as partners in all of this.
Well, Minister, I share the view that while the man is the head, the woman is the neck that turns the head in any direction. I get a lot of trouble with my friends and my colleagues.
And I'm very, very comfortable with the man being the head, especially if he recognizes how important the neck is.
Absolutely. Well said. So, Minister, as we wrap up, the whole area of well, first I look forward to seeing Soufre when you will be there in the whole Peter.
Yes, restoring the pride, that's an important, and that resonates on so many levels, even as we celebrate independence this month and we speak of our resilience, and we can and we will. It also hinges on an understanding and appreciation of those rich resources we have and preserving them, and the balance between preservation, conservation, sustainable development, and social and economic advancement. It's a delicate dance, but we can do it. We have been doing it.
Yes,
it is well prescribed. The practice is well established, and at its core is an understanding and appreciation for the multiple and respective roles of partners and agencies, stakeholders, and to see how we can marry our agendas without harming one another or harming our environment. So I'm really excited about this program.
Indeed. And Minister, that takes us to the point where your closing remarks.
My closing remarks. Time goes by so quickly. I will end how I started. Were it not for the love, the support, the faith that the people in Mico North have in me, I would not be here. I appreciate and I understand the enormity of the task of having to care for people. And the relationship I have with the people of Mico North is one that's very special to me. It's very intimate. I know the households, I know the people, I know their la famille, I know what's happening with them, I understand their needs. And I will continue to work with my colleagues in the United Workers' Party to ensure that we can afford them what they need and what they do deserve for the many, many years of support that they have given to the United Workers' Party. Which is why when we held the rally, the victory rally at the Mico playing field, I said I have no hesitation in keeping that victory rally on the Mico playing field because I know we will get a new facility. And I said something that I still believe to this day, that the time had come for there to be a new shine in the crown of Mico North, because it is the crown seat of the United Workers' Party. It has never strayed, never left, never gone. That's commitment, that's faith, that's respect, and that comes with expectation. And that is why I've had to work so hard to deliver to the people of Miko North, because they are deserving of everything that we have done for them. And I want to thank my colleagues for the many times I have made my case for Miko North among all the competing priorities. But they too recognize how important Miko North is to the United Workers' Party. So I thank my colleagues as well for their support. I'm young in this business. This is only my third election. Some of them have a much longer track record than I do. So I thank them for their guidance, for their good counsel, their encouragement. And I must thank the people of Miko North. I thank the wider public. I thank St. Lucia, because I am responsible for 26,000 children whose parents recognize that what we do at the ministry, what I do with my team, really can inform the future of these children. I thank them for their prayers and their confidence in me. And I pray that the good Lord will continue to give me the grace, the patience, the wisdom, compassion, empathy, and of course, good sense of humor to continue along in this very, very important role in serving my people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Listeners, viewers in the diaspora and solutions at home, thank you very much for tuning in with us this evening on Constituency Vibes, and it was a joy and pleasure to have our special guest this evening, Dr. Gilty C. Rigobert, Member of Parliament for Miko North and Minister of Education, Gender, Sustainable Development and Innovation. This is Constituency Vibes. It is the program that brings to you what the government is doing constituency by constituency to show you how your party, how the government is working for you in interesting and in developing St. Lucia and in building a new St. Lucia along sustainable lines that is socially acceptable, economically feasible, and preserving our environment. Thank you once again, and good night to all our viewers and listeners.
People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m.
My mother sent us back. It was out of his breakfast to give us what we still didn't do.
Things were very difficult with my parents, and my mother opened a small bakery in the Castries area.
Because my father do everything he could do for me, not for himself, for me, personally. And from there, when I see my mom from there yesterday, and I just remember my mother and my father every day, how they take it so hard to bring us up. And I seen from today there, I have two disabled children from mother. The mother asks for freedom, and they don't want that freedom, you know.